What if I told you that while the healthcare system does a great job treating sickness, it doesn't focus nearly as much on keeping you from getting sick in the first place? Welcome to Beyond Medicine, the podcast that shifts the focus from treatment to prevention. I'm Dr. Ransfordd Bio, and today I'll tell you why this podcast exists and why it might just change the way you think about your health forever. As a doctor, I see people lying in hospital beds every day, suffering from diseases that did not have to happen. And every time I do, I feel disheartened, especially because they wouldn't have gone through all this suffering if they had the right knowledge earlier. The knowledge on how to prevent these diseases from happening. Healthcare, or sick care for that matter, is very expensive, not just in Ghana, but across the world at large. For instance, if you take Ghana, treating diabetes costs on average 4,000 cedis a year, and treating hypertension on average costs 5,000 cedis a year. And this does not include people that had to be admitted in the hospital for complications. This is only focusing on those that had to purchase drugs for these conditions while at home. And families often sell assets, take loans, or stop their children's education just to pay hospital bills. And it's not even just about the money. It's also about the quality of life of these people. 60% of people with chronic illness in Ghana struggle with work and daily activities. Many experience depression and emotional distress because of their health conditions. Caregivers are exhausted, missing work, and spending everything they have just to keep their loved ones alive. Think about it. Every time you turn on the TV, the radio, or even scroll through social media, and there is anything you see concerning health, it is none other than a drug advertisement. You see things like, take this pill for your high blood pressure. This syrup will help with your stomach ulcer. We hear so much about medications, but very little about the conditions themselves or the diseases themselves. What they actually are in plain or simple language, how they originate in us, and how we can stop them from happening. It is almost as if the healthcare system thrives on us falling sick. And maybe it does. Yes. Let me put it this way. Does a coffee maker wish for people to die? Not necessarily. But death keeps their business alive. And in the same way, the industries built around sickness don't exactly celebrate a world without diseases. Because if people stop falling sick, who buys the medications? Who fills the hospital beds? Who is going to fund the whole healthcare system? Here is the reality. In 2022 alone, the global pharmaceutical industry made $1.48 trillion. $1.48 trillion. With chronic disease medications as one of the top revenue sources. That is to say that our mothers and fathers and relatives who have hypertension, diabetes, kidney diseases, the medications that they have to be buying on a regular basis made this pharmaceutical industry these huge sums of money. And it is even more interesting when, for instance, in developed countries like the US, about $30 billion is spent on drug advertisements. $30 billion on just drug advertisements alone. But only $1 billion is spent on public education about how to prevent these same diseases the drugs are meant to treat. Is that not interesting? And even in medical education, this bias is obvious. So clear. I spent hundreds of hours studying drug treatments and surgeries in extreme detail. So we go to class, and whenever we are taught any medical condition or disease, they teach us so much detail about how to treat it. But then when it comes to how to prevent these conditions, very little is said. It's almost always eat well and exercise. That was it. No real guidance. No deep dive into what it truly means for everyday people. A study concluded that doctors receive less than 20 hours of formal nutrition education in a 4 or 6 year curriculum, depending on the country. So for instance, if you take Ghana, where doctors spend 6 years in medical school, they receive less than 20 hours of education on nutrition. So if even doctors aren't trained to focus on prevention, how can we expect the general public to know better? Ghana spends millions of cedis annually treating diseases that could have been prevented with better lifestyle habits. Yet, in Ghana, many people can't even afford basic health care, and most rely on out-of-pocket payments. The balance is clearly tilted in the wrong direction. But can we look beyond medicine? Can we? If we truly value health, why are we not investing in what actually keeps people healthy? Prevention is cheaper, prevention saves lives, and prevention spares families from suffering. So why isn't it the priority? This realization hit me early in medical school. I kept seeing the same thing. So many diseases had one thing in common. They could have been prevented. And every time prevention was mentioned, it always boiled down to diet and exercise. But no one ever taught us exactly what that meant. So I decided to test it out for myself. I started exercising. I changed my diet. I started researching what real health looks like. And the more I learned, the clearer it became. So much of what we accept as inevitable diseases are actually preventable. For instance, if you take type 2 diabetes, US spends about $327 billion every year on diabetes treatment alone. But studies have shown that 90% of the cases of those diabetes could have been prevented through lifestyle changes. But here is the problem. We've been subtly trained to avoid physical activity. When it comes to walking to school, we say that's for the poor. When it comes to carrying our own groceries, we say why struggle when you can pay someone? When it comes to sweating, we say rich people don't sweat. This podcast isn't just about preventing disease. It's about changing how we think about health. That's why I started this podcast. If no one is going to teach us how to prevent disease or emphasize it till it becomes part of us, then I will. I'm here to break down real health knowledge. We will talk about nutrition, exercise, stress, sleep, and simple lifestyle habits that can literally save your life. No big medical jargons, no confusing advice, just real, practical knowledge you can use to take control of your health. And this isn't just me talking. I want to hear from you. If you have questions, if there are health topics you've always been curious about, if you just want better clarity on how to stay healthy, reach out. Let's make prevention a priority together. If this episode resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because good health isn't just personal. It's something we should all work towards as a community. Until next time, take care of your health, because no one else will do it for you.